Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and give us about 30 seconds before we start, just so we can have a nice little group here.
Come on in, welcome. Grab a chair, anywhere you want.
Grab a glass of water. All righty. Well, I think we have a pretty good group here. So, good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'm a marketing specialist here at Educate 360. Welcome to today's webinar, Getting Started with Agile, presented by Educate 360's Director of Project Management, Andrea Brockmeyer. We are in Zoom for today's session, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the webinar. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use the chat or the Q&A option for our short Q&A after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar. So without further ado, I will hand it over to you, Andrea.
Thank you very much, Mariela, and welcome everybody to Getting Started with Agile, an introductory overview. This is Agile 101 in 30 minutes, quick and clean on a little bit to get you going here. So let's get to it. So what inspires organizations to even explore and embark on an agile journey, right? And the question that organizations should always be asking is, why are we doing this, right? Because one of the things I want you to come away with today is that agile is an answer. It's not a right answer. So there are reasons to do this. There are reasons that you don't need to do this, right? But what generally are people looking at? Projects take too long. Certainly that's one of the things that inspires folks. People, gosh darn it, change their minds. Yep, they sure do. Nothing we can do to change that. But businesses evolve too. Competition changes, the markets change. And team members want a more collaborative environment. Interestingly, there is a report that comes out annually, the annual State of Agile, that I'm going to reference a couple times. And one of the biggest benefits, or actually the number one benefit that people get from Agile, is a more collaborative environment. So I thought that was pretty interesting on this year's report. That was at the top of the list. But at any rate, well, that's great, Andrea. What is Agile? Okay, so you're in conversations, people are talking about Agile. What actually is it? Well, there are different definitions, some that I'm more fond of than others. Agile, and this is according, there's that report, that digital AI report that I was talking about, pretty widely referenced survey that comes out every year. But Agile methodology is one of the project management approaches that prioritizes cross-functional collaboration and continuous improvement. Okay, that's fine. I'm not big on referring to Agile as a methodology, which suggests that it's very prescriptive and tells you exactly what to do. There are some methodologies in there, but Agile by definition, in my mind, is not a methodology. Agile is a group of software development methodologies / methods / frameworks characterized by rapid iterative development cycles resulting in small incremental releases. Okay, so we get a little bit of flex there. Methodologies, methods, frameworks. I like that. Software development, yes. Not only it has in its history been applied to many things. And while software development is still at the top of the list, it is by no means the only one. Again, development style, agile development rather, style of software development emphasizes customer satisfaction through continuous delivery of functional software. That's all well and good too, etc., etc. We could find all of these different definitions. What I like best when somebody thinks about what is agile, it's a way to solve complex problems in an uncertain environment. Hard stop. That's what it is. And that's as specific as you need to get. So if you are in you've got complex problems to solve and uncertainty that you are encountering, this is a good way to approach the solutions to those problems. If you're not, and not everybody is, then maybe this isn't what you need to do. Okay. So what else can we say about what Agile is? Well, the Agile Manifesto, which you may have heard about, is a document that was penned in 2001. There were 17 signatories on that. And it captured 4 paired values and 12 principles. Okay, so here's this Agile Manifesto. 2 things about this. One, it hasn't changed. It has withstood the test of time. It has not changed in, well, 23 years. Okay, there were suggestions that it be revised, and really it doesn't need it. Okay, why would you want to pay attention to what the Agile Manifesto says? Because if you listen, the best Agilists, when things are not going well, or when they are, or anytime they're trying to think about how to solve those complex problems in the face of uncertainty, they come back to the manifesto. They actually reference these things. It is simple, it is elegant in that way, and then it doesn't need a lot of tailoring. It is simply what it is that it means to be agile. Okay, so let's take a look at what it says. And you could spend all afternoon deliberating about this and talking about it, what it means, and all of that, and just exploring it. But we're just going to high level take a look at this manifesto. So it begins by stating that we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Okay, well, Andrea, you said that it isn't just software. That is true. That is true. The first thing we actually want to note, however, is that it says we are uncovering better ways of doing something. So Agilists will never tell you, the good Agilists will never tell you that they've got the right answer, that they've got it, and learn from them. They are the gurus. I mean, they're always learning, hard-coded into Agile thinking. Okay, so they're still learning. The other thing is when people said a few years ago, hey, you need to update this thing because people are using it in things other than software. They said, fine, just substitute the word product for software. That's all you need to do. I mean, that's great, right? So that's what we'll do. So through this work, we have come to value, and here are these 4 paired values: individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Okay. So processes and tools, yeah, but we really love our processes and our tools. We've invested a lot in those things. We have really spent a lot of time defining our processes, teaching them, and our tools, huge investment. They're not saying they're not important, but they're saying, let's not rely on those things. Let's get up and talk to people. Let's interact. Let's hop on a Teams call. Let's stand up and go across the hall to get questions answered. That's more efficient. It's more collaborative, yields better results. Let's not over rely on processes and tools to create distance between ourselves and our customers and each other. We value working software, working product over comprehensive documentation. Our documentation, we have to do documentation. Documentation is really important. That's how we knowledge transfer things. They're not saying don't document. They're saying document only at the time that you need it and only as much as you need. But what they're saying that's really important is working product. What is documentation in and of itself doesn't have value. If it serves a purpose, then it does. Maybe you're on a regulatory for a project, for example, and you've got all sorts of really heavy documentation that's required for this project. Does that mean you can't use Agile? No, it does not. You're going to have more documentation in that environment. That's fine. But what really matters is getting something of value into the hands of your customer. Okay, let's focus first on there. Documentation when we need it, only as much as we need it. And when we need it, because we're not going to begin by creating all sorts of documentation that you may not need. Anybody ever been on an initiative where you created a bunch of front-end documentation that turns out you never use it or don't need it? It's called waste. That is not a good use of time. All right, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Oh dear, we can't have contracts in Agile? Yes, you can have contracts. But even beyond, say, procurement related contracts, think about how sometimes we treat requirements documentation, or we treat project management plans or project charters. Sign here. You said. We're not, why do we do that? We treat contracts, we treat things like contracts in order to sort of box people in a corner so they somehow can't change their minds, which is folly. They still will. Let's, if we need to put things in writing for a contract, fine, let's do that. But let's focus on the things that we want that are of value, the things that we both want, find the win-win. Let's work together. Let's not get spun up and, wrapped around the fine print to any more than we need to. And then responding to change over following a plan. We can't plan in Agile. LOL, you plan more in Agile than you do in some ways than you do in traditional projects. But what we're going to do is, instead of coming up with a plan and letting that dictate what we do, we're going to do something, get some feedback, and then evolve where we go on the basis of that. A very different way of approaching our work. So here is the most important statement in this whole manifesto. While there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. So they are not saying disregard those things on the right. They're just saying that we value those things on the left more. So those are the paired values. Feel free, by the way, to chat as we go here. I love to read comments along the way. So maybe even cries of heresy if you want. So at any rate, those are the paired values. And then there are these 12 principles that go along with those values. These are supportive of, they're sort of the bridge between the values and the practices. Okay, so let's just take a look at these. Our highest priority, number one, is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable product. That is number one, getting something of value into the hands of our customer quickly and continuously. Customers tend to like that. Yeah. Welcome changing requirements. Even late in development, agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. What? Well, if we are saying, hey, let us know if you have any changes. If we're making changes really late, the later we make them, the more information we have going into those decisions. Right? So that's how we stay competitive. So we don't carve requirements in stone and then tell people there, that's it, that's what you're getting. Yeah, let us know if things change. We'll do it just in time. Implement things just in time. Develop working product frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple months, with a preference for the shorter time scale. So that steady drip of something of value for the customer. Again, they tend to like that. Working product is the primary measure of progress. So when somebody says, hey, how's that initiative going? How's that project going? What do we not do in Agile? We don't go to some kind of report. What we do is we say, how much value have we put into the hands of the customer? That's the answer to that question. Okay. Number 5, business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. So what that means is, rather than having some project person run as a courier between the team and the business that has the answers, they work together. They're on the same team. They're right there together. So that means if the team's got a question, they turn around and ask, figuratively or literally. They've got access to the people that have the answers to the questions that they have, so that they can turn things around quickly. They can ask those little things, get information right away. We don't have this volleying back and forth and all of the elephant game things that happen. Pretty effective. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face. Well, that's not changed. I think most of us can agree to that. However, obviously, we're working in virtual environments now. Does that mean you can't be Agile? No, it does not. What it means is you need to invest in tools and use them, right? Get on a Teams call with video, folks. That's what helps enhance and provide that higher context for communication. Okay. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. Build it right the first time. You're going to have a lot easier time, and it's going to be a lot less expensive when it comes time to make changes, updates, document, communicate. And that's for anything you do. Simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. How many of you have a not to-do list? How many things am I not going to do today because they don't add value? Does anybody spend time doing things that don't add value? Maybe you're putting together a PowerPoint presentation and you're moving a little box an eighth of a millimeter this way and then this way, and that, no value, folks. So when we find ourselves doing the kinds of things, think about how to maximize the amount of work we're not doing. Build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need and trust them to get the work done. So this means, give people the resources they need and let them do their thing. It also means, rather than in traditional, like what we do in traditional environments, where let's say we have a project that comes up. Here's a project that's been sanctioned. Okay, let's go find team members and put the team on that project and build the team around the project. And then so they work together for 8 months and they've become a high performance team and they're doing great. And then the project's over and boom, the team breaks up. Now we've got another initiative, bring another team together, build them around the project. They spend all this time in forming, storming, norming, performing, and going through their team development stuff. That project gets done, break them up. Why do we do that? Why do we put teams together that go through the time and the expense and the effort of becoming great teams and then break them up at the end of the project? Why don't we let teams form and develop and become great and then take projects to them? Why don't we build the projects around teams? Let them stay intact. So much less expensive in the long term, right? Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. So this is about tempo, folks. This is not about environmental stuff, although that's important. We're talking here about tempo, and tempo is a big thing in Agile. You don't have the boom and bust. You're like, oh my gosh, everybody's hair on fire because there's a milestone coming up, the deadline's coming up, and everybody's working 14-hour days, and then, whew, we're done with that. And then we all sit back. And then another milestone comes up, hair on fire. Agile says, why? Don't do that. That is stressful. It's not healthy. Let's come up with like these iterations that are predictable in terms of what happens and their tempo. And we just have this flow. Flow is a big thing. And we could just go like this forever. And so the practices support that sustainable pace, where you don't have that burnout as a result of that intense ebb and flow of work. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. Teams get to decide how they're going to do the work, what they're going to do. There's nobody telling them what to do. Very different. And then the team reflects regularly on how they're doing and making adjustments. Think lessons learned like every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, not just at the end of the project. Okay. So again, when people think about what is Agile, this is it, folks, those 4 values and these principles. So you can think not just in terms of, oh gosh, we don't have Agile coaches. I'm not working on an Agile team per se, but you can think in terms of organizational agility, project agility. How do we embrace these things? What opportunities do we have as an organization, as a project, as a team to think in terms of these things? And that's really what it's about. Agile, we talk about being Agile, not doing Agile. I went to a conference and we all got buttons. Agile is not a noun, right? It's a thing you are. And so you're thinking, these aren't specific practices. That's why when we say Agile is a methodology, there's nothing particularly prescriptive here, right? So Agile approaches then, Agile includes the big umbrella, actually, and this is from the PMI's Agile Practice Guide, which I love. The big umbrella is lean, delivering value, eliminating waste, small increments. And then there's all sorts of things that fit in there. There's methods, methodologies, frameworks. And so Kanban, XP, Scrum are probably the most commonly, well, not probably, the most familiar to you, probably because they are the most common. Scrum actually is the most common. So depending on the resource you read, but usually you see like over 80% of people using Agile are using Scrum or Scrum and something else. Okay. But actually it's, Agile includes all sorts of other things. But because Scrum is so common, it often gets confused with Agile. So when you're talking about Agile, it can be helpful to have some terms in mind that people get a little dizzy trying to keep them straight. So Scrum is necessarily Agile. Agile is not necessarily Scrum, right? Agile is many frameworks, methods, methodologies. Scrum is a particular framework. Framework meaning it's very light. Everywhere you go, Scrum will look different. There is a very short document that you can find on the Scrum Guide. If you want to Google that, take a look at that. It's free. So iteration is just a general term for a short chunk of work, right? Iterations in Scrum are called sprints. Okay. Agile doesn't designate specific roles. Each one of those frameworks, methodologies, approaches that we just looked at could have different roles. Scrum has 3 roles, and we're going to take a look at them here in a moment. Agile talks about a customer. The customer in Scrum is called a product owner. Agile talks about a coach or servant leader. That is specifically referred to as a Scrum Master in Scrum. Okay. So, I mean, not a huge deal, but it can be helpful for language because people get confused a little bit. So just something to file away. All right. So Waterfall and Agile, just a little compare and contrast here. Waterfall, sometimes called predictive, plan-driven, anticipatory, because what we're doing is we're saying we know so much about how this project's going to go that we can put together a plan up front and predict how it's going to go. We can anticipate what's going to happen. And maybe you can. Again, waterfall's not a wrong answer. It's an answer. If you're building the 500th house, it's just like the 499 you just built. Manage it like a project, but you don't need Agile. Kind of been there, done that, right? Agile, on the other hand, is adaptive. We're going to adapt to what we learn. It's change driven. It is experiential. We're going to do something, get some feedback, and then adapt to that. Okay. So that's kind of the different ways of thinking about things. Okay. So an example, let's say you commissioned me to paint you a picture for your living room because you did not do any research and did not know that I am a ghastly artist. I'm in fact not an artist, but for whatever reason, you commissioned me to do this. So if we're using a traditional approach, what's going to happen? Well, I'm going to show up at your house. We're going to sit at your kitchen table. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. I'm going to go away for 8 months, create you a painting, and come back and say, ta-da! And what are you going to say, potentially? Boy, that's not what I had in mind. I meant tomato red, not fire engine red. I meant like a truck, not a convertible, whatever, right? I mean, that's kind of how it works. Well, we could do that iteratively. Iterative and incremental, 2 different terms that are used in this discussion. We could do it iteratively in that I would come ask you some questions and then I would go away for, let's say, a month, sketch something out, and then I'd come back and let you take a look at it. And you'd say, yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. Maybe the tree not leaning so much. Okay, well, I go away. I do a little more based on that feedback. I say, okay, now what do you think? Yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe a little more light in the horizon there. Okay, and we keep going back and forth like that. And after a few months, I come back and say, here it is. And you say, yeah, put it over there. No surprises. It's exactly what you want because I have been adjusting to your feedback along the way. There is no big ta-da, right? Or we could do it incrementally. I could come ask you some questions. You tell me what you want. I say, okay, here's the tree. And maybe I get some feedback on that. Then I say, okay, here's the water. Maybe I get some feedback on that. Now I say, okay, here's the horizon. And add one increment at a time. So if you've used a traditional waterfall approach, you may have done something like that. Agile is necessarily both iterative and incremental. We are iterating, refining as we go based on feedback, and we're adding functionality or adding features as we go. Okay. All right, now approaches to deliverable in waterfall or traditional. I'm actually waterfall, kind of where you see the waterfall there. Deliverables, customers have to wait until the end to get something of value. Not usually, customers aren't generally fans of having to wait, as opposed to Agile, which, as we said, has that steady drip of something of value. Great way to satisfy your customer. Defining requirements. This is a big one. What do we do in a traditional environment? We define our requirements, we elicit, we analyze, we model, we document, and then we baseline them at the beginning. Real heavy and business analysis requirements work at the beginning. Then it really drops off, right? We're kind of managing changes for the rest. Agile says, who's kidding who here? I mean, we don't know what the requirements are. The customers don't know what the requirements are. They have no idea. So you know what? We're going to do a little bit, get some feedback. Then we'll refine requirements and do a little bit more. Then we'll refine requirements, do a little bit more. We're progressively elaborating requirements just in time throughout the life of the project. Managing change. We come up with our approach to how we're going to manage change at the beginning, and then we tightly control changes. We baseline what we're going to do. We get approval for changes, and then we manage those changes as we go, and update the plan through some approval process and manage them to the new plan. Agile, it's kind of a non-issue. It's hard baked into the process. Change management, it's all change management. There's no change management plan per se. Okay. And then planning, again, planning the whole thing at the beginning. Agile's planning all the time because you're planning for every iteration. You're planning continuously. So it's pretty comical. People say, oh, no planning in Agile. Nah, you're planning all the time. You're just not deluding yourself into thinking because of the uncertainty that you can plan the whole thing. Planning out as far as you can see. Big one is the team. So in a traditional approach, you have like requirements people, you have design people, you have people that do the coding, you have testers, you have sort of these silos, right, of people, teams of people that are specific in what it is that they do. Agile, cross-functional teams, they can do more than one thing. They're all working on the same things. It's a great way to mitigate bottlenecks. Helps a lot with that flow. So you can see Agile it's a mindset change. It's a big culture change. This is not just here's a list of things that we do thing. It's a big culture change from the top down out across the whole way. Can I display slide 13? Which one is this one? Oh, no, I see. Well, I'll go back to that after I'm getting close here. Yeah, so just a quick comment about the 3 roles in Scrum: product owner, Scrum Master, and development team. So the product owner is the voice of the customer. They make all decisions based on the needs of the customer. So they're speaking on behalf of all of the stakeholders. They own the product backlog, which essentially includes the requirements and all the work the team hasn't done. They make the decisions about what's been delivered, if it's good or not, if they want to use it or not. Very collaborative with the team, again, accessible to the team. So that's the big thing. So a good PO has the authority to make decisions on behalf of all of the stakeholders and the customer. They've got the ability or the knowledge of the business, and they're available to the team. Which one is most difficult typically? This one, because somebody that has the authority and the ability isn't generally available. So that's the trick on that one, which is a different webinar. Scrum Master. They're a facilitator, a coach, a mentor. The Scrum Master is really deep on Scrum because they're the ones that are making sure the team is practicing good Scrum. They're advocating for Scrum throughout the organization. They're helping with that culture change. They're empowering the team. This is not a project manager marching around telling people what to do. They're a servant leader. Hauling water, removing rocks for the team, making sure the team can get done when they need to do. And then the development team is collectively responsible for the work that the team does. How do you like that? I love that, right? We don't point fingers at a single person. They collectively own it. They decide what their team norms and rules of engagement are. They collectively estimate what it's going to take to get things done. They collaboratively design, develop, test. Okay. They participate. They share ownership for the work they do. This is a huge stress reliever. Think about this. Again, there is no time wasted organizationally pointing at fingers, trying to figure out who to blame for things. We're going to problem solve collaboratively. It's pretty cool. Teams love that. There's no reason. It makes total sense that the collaboration piece is what people like the most. So here is the stakeholder engagement moment, the survey for the webinar. Which of these, and this is based on this most recent report, the State of Agile report, which of you options, but what do you think?
Alrighty, I have launched it. I'll give us about like 20 to 30 seconds to get some answers in. So get them in if you can.
Look at that. All right. You guys are so good. You are so good. Absolutely. Organizational change, culture clash. Oh, culture class, not not culture clash, culture clash. Yes, it is a culture change. It's hard, folks. And it does have to come from the top. So these are not, I mean, all of these are significant, but getting folks from that, it isn't just a matter we're going to get things done faster. Yep, that can be a benefit, but it is a different way of working. So you folks are spot on there. Yeah. So Agile is something you are, not something you do. It's a mindset. It is an answer, not always the right answer. It's a culture shift, and it's a journey of many steps. It is not a switch. This is not everybody go to class and presto, we're going to be Agile. It is an organizational journey. So that's what I've got, a couple minutes over. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We'd love to help you on your Agile journey. We can do that with technology, culture change, organizational change, Agile, whatever you need, we can help you with that. We'd love to do that. So thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Absolutely. I know we had a couple questions, but we are a little over. So can we get to that one real quick, Andrew? What do you feel?
Sure. If you want, you can make, yeah, yeah.
Okay, perfect, cool. We had one on, I think this is referencing the principles for 10 and 11.
Mariella, I can barely hear you for some reason.
Oh no, can you hear me a little better now? Sorry, the mic is
Yeah,
a little far away. So sorry about that.
that's all right.
We had a quick question about the Agile principles. For 10 and 11, as the team self-organizes, will they also self-set the pace, or is that the role of the Agile team lead?
So will they also, as they self-organize, will they also what?
Will they also set the pace?
Set the pace. Well, yeah, I mean, they will perform and get done what they can get done, and then you can, I mean, I guess I'm not, do they decide how much they can get done? Yes, in a particular iteration, if that's what you mean. So they will learn over time. They will, figure out how much they can pull into an iteration. If they're working in 2-week sprints, say it's a sprint team, a Scrum team, and they've got 2-week sprints. They will over time figure out how much they can deliver in 2-week sprints, and they'll try, and then they learn from that over time. Yeah. I think is that nobody's telling them, hey, you have to do this much in 2 week sprints. It's up to the team to, evaluate that. And that's done collaboratively with guidance from, um, the Scrum Master, particularly for new teams, things like that. But yeah, I think I answered that.
Awesome. Excellent. We had one more question about is if it's possible to have waterfall and agile work together.
Oh, for sure. People, yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at a comment in the beginning is it's to look at the values and the principles. It's not about, okay, do we can we check every box? But people are taking this stuff. And let me just put it this way. So years ago when I used to teach Agile, and I would say, how many of you are using Agile? And people would kind of raise their hand, they look down at the ground and kind of kick the ground. It's like, oh shucks, we're not really doing it right, and we don't really know what. And now people are like, you know what? We're using Agile in a way that works for us. We're blending it with what we do, and we're making it work for us because we do this and this and this, and that's great. For me, the best Agilists, that's how they respond. Great, what works for you, and take those things and make it work because not everybody's working in software development. If you're working, say, infrastructure, you can't sort of partially implement, you know, components of infrastructure, for example. So absolutely. Is it hybrid? Usually we call hybrid is blended is where you take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and you kind of blend it. Hybrid usually is meant that parts of the organization or parts of the project, maybe the software development people are using Agile and the infrastructure people are using Waterfall. But yeah, you can call it blended, hybrid.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, yep, we are a little bit over time, so I'm going to be so mindful of everyone's time here and cut the Q&A. I will say we had a couple questions about the recording. You will be getting an email with the recording in it, so be on the lookout for that. But other than that, I believe that
Yeah,
should be
I'll
it.
just say, link with me on LinkedIn, folks. If you've got questions or something, I'm happy to answer. So yeah,
Absolutely awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Andrea.
thanks everybody.
Awesome. And thank you all so much for joining us. If you need any more info on this topic, please do not be afraid to visit us at projectmanagementacademy.net. Alrighty. Well, thanks again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you very soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.